May 20th, 2015 meeting of the Ways and Means Committee will now come to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Andrews, Mr. Baroth, Dr. Carbone, Mr. Daniele is excused, Mrs. Draw, Mr. Haney, Ms. Cayley, Dr. Quattro, Mr. Racco, Mr. Tucciarello, Chairman Yolovich,
Here.
President Adair.
Legislator Quattro, would you be kind enough to lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any speakers signed up for the public forum?
There are not.
Is there anyone here that has not signed up that would like to speak to this committee? Seeing none, the next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. You have the minutes from the April 29th, 2015 meeting in your folder. They will stand approved unless the clerk is notified of any changes by the end of the day. We have a presentation from Paul Johnson, Associate Planner of the Planning and Development Department, and he'll give us a brief overview of the 2016-2021 CIP.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Every legislator should have a copy of the county executive's recommended capital improvement program. This has also been reviewed and recommended by the Monroe County Planning Board, which held one public information meeting as part of their review of this proposed program. I want to very briefly summarize some of the financial impacts of this capital program by citing where the money is coming from and how these funding shares have changed from our last adopted program. Overall, the program is $77 roughly $1 million more than last year's program. This is about a 21% increase in funding, largely accounted for in district funding and Pure Waters projects and increased county funding, principally with a new project at the Seneca Park Zoo. The funding from county and district sources is up from last year's program. Our enterprise funding is about the same. State funding is down about 10%, and federal funding is down about 4%. So we have, as is the case from year to year, shifts in where the money is coming from and what percentage of the program it contributes to. The capital budget year, which is the 2016 budget, which is the first opportunity the legislature will have to fund capital projects when it's presented as part of the operating budget in the fall. To summarize that, the county funds for 2016 are a little over $34 million. That's an increase from last year's or this year's 2015 capital budget, again, largely accounted for by the new zoo project and some new projects in public safety and the district attorney being added to the program. And in final summary, if you were to tally them up, there are 23 new projects included in this 6-year program. And that concludes my presentation, Mr. Chairman. We'd be happy to take questions when we get to this item on the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. The next item on the agenda is new business. Madam Clerk.
Referral 15-0155.
Moved by Legislator Racco, seconded by Legislator Tucciarello. Is there any discussion? Legislator Baroth.
Thank you. Through the Chair of the Administration, I have one quick question about the decrease in funding from the three programs, the CDBG, ESG, and the home programs. It's only about $50,000. Do we have an idea of the breakdown of the decrease, where it came from, which of these programs, or is it equally spread out between the three?
That's not the CIP. That's on the first item's not the CIP.
Okay, through you, Mr. Chairman. For the allocations for this year, there's a decrease of $9,377 in the CDBG allocation. There's a just over $71,000 decrease in the home allocation, and then there is an increase of just over $12,000 in the ESG allocation.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, please.
Referral 15-0156.
Moved by Legislator Tucciarello, second by Legislator Quattro. Is there any discussion? Legislator Haney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My first question is on page 73 in the Department of Public Safety, where we're proposing in 2016 spending $5,200,000 to replace the computer-aided dispatch system. How old is the present system?
Through the chair, the current system was installed in 1994.
So in all the other equipment changes that have gone on over there through the chair, this is still the original equipment going back to 94?
Through the chair, it is a software program. It's the original software program.
Oh, it's a software program. Okay. Thank you. On page 13, under the community college, there's a project for $1 million for the purchase of property immediately adjacent to the campus. And the property in question is that large white house that some of you may be familiar with on the north side of Brighton Henrietta Town Line Road. And we're apparently going to pay $1 million to, anticipating paying $1 million. What is the college going to use this property for?
Through the chair, the college has developed in the recent past a comprehensive master plan for the Brighton campus that identifies this south campus area along the frontage of Brighton Henrietta Town Line Road. So it's an extension, if you will, of that policy to acquire properties as they become available to consolidate the holdings along that stretch of the campus boundary. Specifically, I believe that the Monroe Community College Foundation is a possible tenant for this building.
Through the chair, and that's exactly my point, because I've been told the same thing. And if the foundation is going to use the building, why doesn't the foundation buy the property instead of the county? I mean, the foundation apparently has money. They just agreed to give the college, give the county $1 million for the Damon campus. Why doesn't the foundation buy the building instead of the county?
Mr. Chairman, as has been explained by MCC staff to planning board members and several administrators here, the college does anticipate the need to use this location as potential swing space during other renovation projects on the main campus. But we do acknowledge the concern regarding the foundation. As such, the foundation has agreed to an annual lease payment for a number of years, such that it will cover the ultimate debt service on that property.
So, through the chair, I assume what you're referring to is the impact statement indicates the annual debt service will be $43,600 and offset by attributable revenue of $35,000. I assume the $35,000 is going to be rent paid by the foundation?
Mr. Chairman, that's correct.
Through the chair, as I understand it, the foundation is currently located in the office park on the west side of Henrietta Road. Do we know how much rent the foundation is currently paying?
Frankly,
Mr. Chairman, we do
that's
not.
irrelevant. It has nothing to do with this.
Well, I'm wondering if they're getting a bargain or not. the third project that I have a serious concern about, and at the risk of being called an animal hater or something, this project for the Seneca Park Zoo, $37,750,000, all county funding. I mean, this is going to have a tremendous impact on future operating budgets. The annual debt service, according to the table, is going to be $3.3 million. I think we need to be seriously concerned, Mr. Chairman, about tying into an expenditure of this size with little analysis by the legislature. Do we know how much of the $37 million is related to the replacement of the 1930 building?
Mr. Chairman, although we can't identify the specific dollars for demolition, the entire project is related to removal of the main building and the relocation of those exhibits.
So the whole almost $38 million is related to the replacement of the main building?
Mr. Chairman, in general, yes, but let me also clarify that included with that would be a redesign and refurbishment of the entry plaza, as the exhibit is expected, as the overall design is expected to draw additional visitors to the zoo. We really need to redesign the entry plaza to accommodate the increased foot traffic.
Through the chair, I went to the presentation last night at the zoo, and the plans as they were discussed with what few members of the public showed up on a chilly evening included a people transit system to carry people to the elephant exhibit, and it included the plan that was discussed with the public last night included projects in the full length of the zoo footprint. Are we saying that the $38 million here is only the stuff at the entranceway in the main building and does not include all those other projects?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, a number of the aspects they were explained to me previously of the plan that was discussed yesterday with the public are above and beyond, and looking at phases that would take place sometime after the completion of the replacement of the building that we're talking about.
So through the chair, the project, the entire zoo project price tag then is well in excess of this number, I take it.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I don't have a figure as to what all of the phases inclusive would include, because they're still in the process of doing a public dialogue and discussing what would be included in a master plan. But if you were talking about the entirety of the project as it was discussed last night, yes, that would be correct.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'll vote yes this evening to move the CIP to the full legislature for a discussion. But I think there's a serious issue here as to whether this legislature and this administration should be adopting this at this time. We come January 1st, which is only 7 months from now, there's going to be a new county administration and a new legislature. And for a project of this magnitude and scope, it's my personal opinion that this should be deferred until the new administration and the new legislature, because they're the ones that are going to have to raise the taxes to pay the tremendous debt service on the project. I mean, $3,300,000 a year in annual debt service is going to have a very significant budget impact.
Is there any further questions? Legislator Adair, excuse me, President Adair.
Jeff is good, too. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to the administration, what would be the impacts if we didn't do this now? To Legislator Haney's question of us not making a decision on this, what would be the impact of us not doing that?
Well, I believe that, through you, Mr. Chairman, that the Parks Director has explained previously at the Planning Board and in other forms that the AZA, the accrediting agency for the zoo, has indicated that it is an absolute requirement that the building that is currently at the front of the zoo must go away. It is not compliant with current zoological standards. And any time wasted between now and our next accreditation increases the level of risk that we may not be accredited and therefore may not have a zoo.
Legislator Andrews.
Mr. Chair, following up on President Adair's question, would it be possible for you to provide that information in writing to us and what exactly has been required by the AZA in order for us to retain that accreditation, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Thank you. One other question on that same page regarding the zoo. What in the chart at the bottom, the revenue source, is that from, or where is that from?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, concessions, admissions, memberships, regular business activities at the zoo.
Thank you. One last question on the CIP. I think, Mr. Johnson, in your statement, in your presentation, you indicated this was the first year that the District Attorney's Office is included in the CIP. Could I just ask you why it's appearing this year for the first time?
Can we keep to protocol, please?
Through the chair, sorry.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the District Attorney's Office project is for the replacement of the case management software, and previously they had no capital projects that would have otherwise qualified to be included in a CIP.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Legislator Cayley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the administration, I think it was just a choice of words, but I wanted to clarify when you were describing the scope in here for the $37 million, you termed it as the relocation of exhibits. I just want to verify that those exhibit relocations are permanent locations and not temporary.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, yes, for instance, the rhino exhibit would be a permanent relocation.
That just gave me another question to ask, sorry.
Go ahead.
Through the chair, when you say the rhino exhibit, that's outside. I'm really referring to the exhibits that are located within the building that needs to be rebuilt or torn down. All tropical exhibits that will be resulting from this funding, will those be permanent exhibits or temporary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the current building does accommodate the rhinoceros in an indoor capacity to a certain degree. But the other exhibits that are currently housed within there, for instance, the orangutan and some of the other animals, those would be permanent exhibits as well and relocations. In addition, those animals during the process, some of them will be required to be boarded at other zoos.
Thank you.
Legislator Baroff.
Chair of the Administration, I have a couple questions. I want to refer back to the CIP presentation that occurred at the Public Safety Committee earlier this week. It was referenced that the project for the jail was, call it temporarily removed so it could be revised and refigured, that at some point this year to be put back in. And when I asked the question, approximately, what do we see that as the value of that project being, it was about $11 million, if I recollect correctly. I just want to confirm with the administration through the chair that this, in fact, is, my understanding is correct, that this approximate $11 million expense will be placed back in the CIP later on this year.
No, Mr. Chairman, that particular project and that particular dollar amount will not be replaced in the CIP later this year. It's a different process. We have an opportunity through the Sheriff's Office and Environmental Services to undertake a energy improvement contract, energy performance contract. That in of itself will generate a design for energy improvements. However, will also give the Sheriff's Office and Environmental Service a better handle on what other improvements need to be made within the jail, which will help them scope out better design costs and future build-out costs.
Thank you. Then to follow up on that, so through the chair, that scoping out process will occur after the end of 2015, is that correct? Or would be resulting, get back in the CIP after the end of 2015?
Mr. Chairman, that scoping out will be towards the end of the project for 15.
Okay. And then finally, as a follow-up, are there any other projects that have been removed for similar reasons from the CIP that we expect to get back in the CIP either at the end of this year or next year?
On behalf of Mr. Johnson, Mr. Chairman, the answer is no.
Excellent. And I have one final question back on page 13 regarding the property acquisition on Brighton Henrietta Town Line Road. I realize the property is anticipated to be purchased for $1 million. Do we have a current estimate or current statement of the assessed value of that property?
Mr. Chairman, we do have assessments for that property. I believe the agreed upon, or the middle figure was $940,000.
As an assessment?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, the lower of the assessments was $940,000.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Assessment or appraisal?
Mr. Chairman, technically it's an appraisal.
That's what I thought.
Assessment of that property.
Mr. Chairman, we would have to provide that before the legislative meeting.
Thank you. I'd actually appreciate it through the chair.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, please.
Referral 15-0157.
Moved by Legislator Quattro, seconded by President Adair. Legislator Haney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Some years ago, the legislature adopted a resolution calling for the use of local vendors whenever possible. And I note this outfit is from New Jersey. With all the engineering and consulting firms locally, was there no one local that could do this work?
Through the chair, Fred Ryan, Office of Emergency Management. There was a committee that reviewed all of the proposals that were submitted, and based upon the needs for this particular project, this proposal provided by Tetra Tech was going to meet all of our needs, as well as at a better price than some of the other vendors that provided proposals.
So through the chair, there were local vendors that responded to the RFP?
Through the chair, yes.
And through the chair, the price quoted by Tetra Tech was lower than any of the local vendors?
Through the chair, the price from Tetra Tech was lower than some of the local vendors, yes.
Than some or than all?
Through the chair, some.
Well, if you had a lower bid response from a local vendor, why would you go with a New Jersey vendor?
Through the chair, because the lower proposals did not meet all of the needs that we required of our plan update, as well as experience in terms of updating these type of plans. They didn't have the same level of experience.
Through the chair, does Tetra Tech have experience in evaluating these plans?
Through the chair, yes.
Through the chair, are they like a niche provider in this? I mean, there are firms that specialize in certain activities. Are they is that the case here?
Through the chair, yes. This is one of their specialties.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Legislator Andrews.
Through the chair, could we request a list of the different vendors who responded to the RFP and copies of the scoring sheets, please?
Through the chair, yes.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next item, please.
Referral 15-0158.
Moved by President Adair, seconded by Legislator Draw. Legislator Baroth.
Through the chair of the administration, I won't delve into the details, but I'm just curious. I realize this is paid for by passenger facility costs, and thus it's not a county expense, but why is this a standalone project through the chair?
Through the chair, the standalone project, it's actually a part of passenger facility charge program number 5. There are a lot of different projects that are listed, of which bathrooms is one. We had to go through the process with both the airlines and the FAA to ensure that the projects listed in the program were all eligible for passenger facility charges.
Thank you. And then through the chair, one follow-up question. Then I'm correct to assume that there may be additional projects coming through from the passenger facility program?
Through the chair, that is correct. As the airport authority, before engaging in these projects, must come before the legislature per the enabling statute and the use and lease agreement. You can expect, this body can expect more projects coming from PFC 5.
Thank you.
Legislator Haney, did you have something?
Through the chair, these bathrooms were reconstructed when the two departure arms were renovated a few years ago, weren't they?
Through the chair, I don't have the history of the last renovation of the bathrooms, but that can be provided.
Well, through the chair, when it's about 6 years ago that the two departure arms were renovated, isn't it?
Through the chair, the scope of the project of the concourses renovation and anything else that took place, I would have to go back to historical documents and provide that. I do not have that material in front of me.
Well, I would request that we be informed with that, because it doesn't seem like it's been many years since those bathrooms were completely reconstructed.
Any further discussion? Legislator Andrews.
Mr. Chairman, is the nature of the work here that's going to be done, is it cosmetic or is it really functional for the bathrooms?
Through the chair, it's an operational issue. The materials that were used in the bathrooms are substandard, and the upkeep and maintenance costs certainly outweigh what we're doing. We're improving the functionality and the ability of the staff to maintain without further costs. Durability is an issue, and again, I had to present this both to the airlines and to the FAA as far as, so I understand the concern. It's a durability issue of the materials that were used and the functionality of the bathrooms themselves to make sure that our maintenance dollars are being spent in other places and not the upkeep. So substandard materials is the bottom line.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just following up on that, I mean, that's upsetting to hear that the bathrooms were constructed in a substandard way in the past. Do you have any assurances that that's not going to happen this time? Or are you attempting to recoup any funds for having to maintain the bathrooms that were built in a substandard way over the past few years?
Through the chair, if I construed that they were built in a substandard way, that's not what I meant. What I was saying was substandard materials, and given the nature of bathrooms, there are certain things that are more corrosive and do more. So what we're doing is we are choosing materials that are less corrosive in nature, and yes, we are taking great care to ensure that what we choose is the best product at the best price, so that we don't come across issues with flooring or other countertops, bathroom stall doors, those types of things that, due to the nature and the frequency of use, take a beating in an airport.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, who chooses the materials for these projects?
Through the chair, it would be airport engineer, airport project manager. Obviously, anything procured by the airport authority has to go through the county purchasing department, so and finance for scrutiny as well as law.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Legislator Haney.
Through the chair, whoever the designer was that the county employed that recommended the use of these now deemed to be inferior materials, is that outfit still any longer being used? The airport has a standing approval for 4 or 5 firms. Is the firm that blundered in the materials used in the restrooms, are they still on that list?
Through the chair, blunder is not my word. Substandard was, and again, if I construed that they were substandard from the sense that they were chosen incorrectly or we made a poor procurement, that is not my point. My point would be that stainless steel, you can only penetrate it one time with a screw, and that screw hole is gone forever. Again, the nature of bathrooms is there's corrosiveness that eats into corrosive materials that eat or product that eats into materials. These are materials that I've dealt with facilities and the management of 40-year-old helicopters as well as 40-year-old ships. Stuff breaks. By no means did I construe, or I hope I did not convey that someone chose a poor product. It's just that stuff wears out, and probably for cost, less durable materials were used. But
well,
as I said, stainless steel, for an example, for a stall door, there's only one time you can put a screw in it, and once the lock breaks, the entire door may have to be replaced. So if we choose not to use a stainless steel door anymore and something that is more durable, that would be a better option for us. And I don't know what the materials that were available at the time, but we're going to choose the best available materials at the best cost.
Through the chair, I'm sure you were. My question was, some engineer or architect in their design work chose the quote substandard materials, end of quote. Is that firm still employed by the county? At the airport?
Again, the use of the word substandard was not to mean that they were substandard, but at the time, if they were the best available, and to answer they were chosen, and things wear out and break, and we believe we can do better this time around. And as far as who chose and are they still employed, I don't have the answer to that question.
I think we've flushed this enough times, Paul. Is there any further discussion? Legislator Andrews?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It was indicated that the answer isn't known at this point in time, but I would like to ask if it be supplied in writing who did make that recommendation, who did this work last time around. Thank you.
I'm sure that's available. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next item, please.
Referral 15-0159,
Moved by Legislator Draw, seconded by Legislator Carbone. Is there any discussion? Legislator Haney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We approved a renovation project for Frontier Field, and now the state is giving us, I guess it's $1.5 million. Why are we using the whole $1.5 million to expand the project rather than using some of the $1.5 million to replace the county funding in the project?
Through the chair, the county funding that was referenced was the $650,000 that was authorized by this honorable body in 2014, and the proposed 1621 plan has additional funding that will amount in a total of $2.5 million for the county project that was referenced. As explained in the CIP, that project is really to meet the requirements of the county as the owner of the facility to improve, if you will, the bones of the building, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, structural, seating bowl, concourse, concrete concourse, and things of that nature. This grant application was for additional, I'll use the term betterments to the stadium above and beyond the basic bones of the facility, and they would include things of like game day experience, fan accoutrements. Some examples of concepts that are being explored are a concourse that extends all the way around 360 degrees around the stadium through the outfield, a new left field entrance, a new right field pavilion, a gathering area with an exterior bathroom facility. So again, this grant money is really for items above and beyond those contemplated in the county project that's in the CIP.
Was the grant contemplated when the legislature approved the $650,000 through the chair?
Through the chair, not to my knowledge.
So at the time, through the chair, at the time the legislature approved the $650,000, that was to be the total cost of the project. And now we're expanding the project, we're tripling the size of the project?
Through the chair, that's incorrect. The project that was envisioned by the county was originally $2.4 million over the 6-year program, 2015 through 2021. And the $650,000 was the requested funding amount for last year, this year, 2015. And we've requested in the proposed CIP additional amounts. This $1.5 million is in addition to that total 6-year program.
So the full 6-year program that was in the CIP is still going to be performed, and this is an add-on?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Was the program that the legislature approved in the CIP, the 5-year phased-in program, whatever it was, I assume that was deemed at the time to be adequate for whatever the stadium needed?
Through the chair, that program includes, as I previously explained, the basic physical amenities of the stadium. That's what that project is explained and described in the CIP includes. This grant money request and award is for potential additional elements of the stadium, as I referenced the very examples in my previous answer.
Legislator Baroth.
Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, first I do want to say congratulations on getting the grant itself. I mean, I know that's no mean feat. My question has to do with timeline. I know from your response that the actual specifics of what the grant's going to fund is still being explored. It might be different things. But in terms of timeline, when do you anticipate these additions or accoutrements occurring? In this year, over the course of 6 years, what's the timeline on this? Through the chair.
Through the chair, the timeline or the concepts are currently being further evaluated and will be vetted, and we expect that they will be implemented over the course of the next couple of years.
Thank you. Through the chair, to follow up that, I would imagine the grant has a drop dead point at some point in time. What would that deadline be? Would you know through the chair?
Through the chair, I don't have a specific date for you, but would be happy to provide that.
I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Legislator Andrews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just two questions. Would it have been possible through the if we had chosen to when we received this $1.5 million grant, to use that to supplant the county funding in the CIP for this project, or not?
Through the chair, no.
Thank you. Also, through the chair, could I just request that once it's determined what these add-ons are going to be for the project, that be communicated to the legislature in writing, please?
Through the chair, yes.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next item, please.
Referral 15-0160.
Moved by Legislator Carbone, seconded by Legislator Rocco. Legislator Haney.
Through the chair, can someone tell me what the engineer estimates were?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, could you please repeat the question?
The question is, what were the engineering estimates for the project?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, the total engineering estimate was $2.894 million. Total bid amount was $2.335 million. Difference of roughly $558,000, or 19% less than the engineer's estimate.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the first number.
2.894 million was the engineer's estimate. The bid amount was 2.335. Difference is approximately $558,000 less than the engineer's estimate.
Okay, thank you. I noticed that for the HVAC, we only received one bid, whereas the others, multiple bids were received. Is there something unique about the HVAC that we only received one bid?
Chairman, no, there is not.
Just no one else chose to bid on it?
Through the chair, Paul.
Through the chair.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, we did not receive any other bids. John W. Danforth is very familiar with work at the plant. Perhaps the size and in the environment that this work is being performed dissuaded other contractors from bidding, but we're confident certainly in Danforth's ability to perform the work.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next item, please.
Referral 15-0162.
Moved by Legislator Rocco, seconded by Legislator Tucciarello. Legislator Haney.
Question? Through the chair?
Through the chair, the estimate, is that the
Yes.
question? Through the chair, the engineer's estimate was $550,000 with this low bid, about nearly $28,000 lower than the engineer's estimate.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next item, please.
Referral 15-0163.
Moved by legislator Tucciarello, second by legislator Quattro. Legislator Haney.
Chair, ditto.
Through the chair, the engineer's estimate was approximately $331,000, with the low bid higher by approximately $30,000.
Through the chair, is there any unique reason or anything why it's over the engineer's estimate?
Through the chair, I think what we surmise, the major item of the project is the precast structure that we're putting in. And while that it was about $33,000 over the engineer's estimate, when you compare that to the unit bid of the average of all the other bidders, it's right in line. As well, we think that maybe we did because the nature of the culvert, it's on a curve, and the cost of that might be a little bit more than what we anticipated.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next item, please.
Referral 15-0164.
Moved by legislator Quattro, seconded by President Adair. Legislator Haney.
Through the chair, the engineer's estimate?
Through the chair, the engineer's estimate was $707,000, which is, and the low bid was $144,000 under the engineer's estimate.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next item, please.
Referral 15-0165.
Moved by President Adair, seconded by legislator Draw. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next item, please.
Referral 15-0166.
Moved by legislator Draw, seconded by legislator Carbone. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next item, please.
Referral 15-0167.
Moved by legislator Carbone, seconded by legislator Rocco. Is there any discussion? Legislator Haney.
Through the chair, what is causing the $130,000 increase?
Through the chair, during some electrical service work, it was discovered that the main electrical feeder into the hospital that receives the electricity generated at the Iola Cogen plant was aged out and in dire need of replacement. It was the original incoming service, and it was in imminent jeopardy of failing. So we went ahead and replaced that line incoming right up into the main switchgear that serves the hospital. And so the nature of this referral is requesting that we, in effect, replace the money that was used for that unforeseen project in order that the planned projects that were requested be performed.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Through the chair, every CIP every year contains an appropriation for exterior site and utility improvements at MCH. Are there no unused balances from prior years' CIPs that could be used for this?
Through the chair, no, my understanding is that those balances and the monies being requested in future CIP years are encumbered, if you will, or allocated to planned projects.
So through the chair, I mean, at one time, those annual fundings at MCH had built up large balances. Those balances have been worked down in the capital funds, have they?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, please.
Referral 15-0168.
Moved by legislator Rocco, seconded by legislator Tucciarello. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item, please.
Referral 15-0169.
Moved by legislator Tucciarello, seconded by legislator Quattro. Legislator Baroth.
Thank you. Through the chair of the administration, I have a couple questions about this referral. First, I know I understand why you have to get the new contract with the new entity that bought out KCI Technologies Incorporated. The terms of the contract still the same? Have there been any changes?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, no changes to the contract terms and conditions.
Thank you. And then through the chair to the administration, one last question. Given that this has been a period of about, I would guesstimate, 3 months or so, have there been any delays in services provided as a result of this between?
Through Mr. Chairman, no, there have not been.
Excellent answer. Thank you very much.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Matter of importance.
Referral 15-0171.
Moved by legislator Quattro, seconded by President Adair. Legislator Haney.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to note and ask for a correction before the ledge meeting. There's an error in the table accompanying the referral. The total distribution for the period of April 13 through 9/13 is listed as $13,073,504.46, which is the identical amount of the prior period. The line actually adds across the $13,288,118.70. And before we vote at the ledge, I'd appreciate receiving a corrected table.
Thank you, Paul. Any further discussion? Legislator Andrews?
Mr. Chairman, if I might, my colleague points out there's an error just above that, too, that I did not note. 11,220,000 is repeated twice.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, we'd be more than happy to provide an updated table and discuss with the author that cut and paste value is not the same as cut and paste formula.
Thank you.
Are there any other matters to, oops, let's vote on that first. We're going to vote, Paul. Do you want to vote, or do you want to ask another question on that? It's my fault. I messed up. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. Legislator Haney, any other matters?
Yes, and again, on the issue of this plan that we have to submit to the state to be eligible for the tax rebate, when is the legislature going to be, or this committee going to be consulted on the contents of that plan?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I was, the plan submission date as established by the state is June 1st, and the county continues to work towards compiling and putting together its submission, and that document will be publicly available on or immediately after June 1.
So that means the legislature will not be consulted about the contents of the plan before submission?
The state legislature and the governor did not require any consultation with the legislature.
But they surely didn't prohibit it.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, no, the statute as written anticipates the county being the lead agency or the lead municipality in jurisdictions, and that's the role that we've taken and worked with other municipalities through the Council of Governments, which there is representation from this body on.
Thank you.
Well, being there's a very expensive Manhattan waiting for me that's long overdue, the May 20th, 2015 meeting of the Ways and Means Committee stands adjourned. The next meeting of the Ways and Means Committee is scheduled for Wednesday, June 24th, 6 p.m.